the income levels that are going to change everything and what to do at each level. So most people think if they just double their income, they're going to double their wealth. And that is absolutely wrong, okay? So after 25 years in finance, I've watched hundreds of people climb from 40 grand a year to 250 grand a year. And here's what nobody tells you. Every income level requires a completely different money strategy, okay? The money moves that work at $60,000 a year are going to keep you broke at $150,000 a year. And so today what I want to do is I'm going to break down the 5 critical income thresholds that can change everything about how you should handle your money and what you need to do at each level. And more importantly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what I did at each level to actually build wealth and not just earn more. I personally lived through all of these levels and I was nearly broke at one point, and now I'm financially free and financially independent. And at each stage, what I want to do is I want to completely rewire how you think about money, and the strategies that get you from 40K to 80K actually held me back when I started making 150K. So whether you're just starting out or somewhere in the middle, I'm going to show you exactly what changes at each income level and what specific moves that matter most, okay? So let's start where most people begin, level 1, the foundation stage. This is where people are probably making between $40,000 and $60,000. It's kind of survival mode, trying to get to stability mode. And at 40 or 60K, your only job at this is to stop the bleeding, okay? This is where I started after grad school, right? I had an MBA, I had a finance and economics degree, and it didn't matter because I was still broke. Because at this level, you're not actually building up wealth yet. What you're doing is you're building the foundation so that you can build wealth. And here's where the 3 moves at this level that matter the most are this. First, you got to have some emergency money built up, but not the 6-month version everyone talks about. You want to have just maybe $1,000 or $2,000 put to the side, and that's it. And start saving up some money and start investing some money, because you just need enough to prevent if there's a big car repair and avoiding having it turn into a credit card spiral, okay? Second, we got to eliminate the high interest debt. So if you have anything that's 10% and above, you've got to get the credit cards, the payday loans, this car loans, any of that stuff's got to go. Pay the minimums on most things so you can pay them off one at a time and get the highest interest rate gone first. And this isn't about being emotional. This is about the math. You got to get these debts gone. And third at this level, and this one is super critical as well, you need to find a way to increase your income. Not just optimizing your budget, because when you're making 50 grand a year, there is no budget strategy that is going to create wealth, right? You cannot save your way out of this level. Every hour you spend clipping coupons is an hour not spending trying to build a skill that can increase your income, okay? So let's look at the math. Perfect budgeting might save you $2,000, $3,000 a year, but one promotion or one side income stream can easily add 10 or 20 grand a year to your income. So you've got to focus on trying to make more income than just focusing on your budget being too small, okay? That leads us right into the next stage, which is the growth stage. And this is where you're going to be making between 60 and 100 grand a year. And this is where things are going to start to shift. You're not just surviving anymore. You actually do have a little bit of extra money. And this is where people really start to mess things up, because what they do is they play defense when it's time to start playing offense. And at this level, these are the 3 strategies that are going to unlock that, okay? First, maximize your employee match. If your company matches you 4% in your 401k, that's instant 100% return, and you got to do that. There is no investment that is going to beat that. So you got to do those. So second is automation. Every dollar you touch, it gets in your hot little hands, you are going to spend it. So you have to remove that decision, and we're going to set up automatic transfers right now. Every paycheck, that money's got to go. 10% to savings, 15% to investments, and it's got to happen off the top before you ever see it. This is not about discipline. This is about removing friction. And when that money ends up in your pocket, in your checking account, or in your wallet, you are going to spend it. And the third thing then is we need to start a way to increase our income or start side income. Not quit your job, but we need to accelerate the progress being able to make more money. So if you're making 80 grand a year, if you can figure out a way to make an extra 10 grand from freelancing or consulting or rental income, that's a 12% raise that you're giving yourself. And over time, that extra income starts to compound, and that compounding over time is how you're going to start to win this game. So 2 people can have the same job and the same salary, but if one has an additional $10,000 income stream coming in consistently and they're investing it, the gap becomes massive over a decade. It's not just right now, it's that compounding over time is where people start to really win in this game, which leads you into the third phase, which is the leverage stage, right? This is where you start to make 100 to 150 grand. And for those of you that are now in this level, welcome to making 6 figures plus. And it used to feel like making 6 figures was a big deal, but in today's world, this is where things are really starting to happen for you, right? This is where good financial advice can actually become bad financial advice. And how is that? The rules start to change here, right? That small emergency fund that we talked about at these lower incomes now needs to be bigger. It needs to be more like 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And why is that? because typically your expenses are higher. Your job transitions, if you lose your income, can take a little bit longer. And here's that real shift in your mindset is you need to stop thinking about saving and start thinking about how can I leverage my money and start doing more investing. And this is where at this level where I bought my first rental property, not because I was rich, but because I had finally a little bit of extra income to qualify to be able to get some financing and start having some good debt rather than bad debt. So if you're someone making 120 grand a year and you're putting $20,000 in your savings account, earning almost nothing, you're losing money because inflation is just eating it. But if you can take that same 20K and use it as a down payment to generate some cash flow, some appreciation, some tax benefits on a rental property, that is where you start to win. And there's 3 moves at this level that have to happen, okay? You got to max out all your tax advantage accounts because this is where we start to pay a lot of money in taxes. So whether it's 401ks, IRAs, health savings accounts, whatever you got to do to start saving on some of your taxes. And at this income, taxes becomes one of your biggest expenses. And every dollar sheltered now in an investment that can grow over the long term is that money you're going to make over years and years and years. And yeah, you'll pay tax on the back end, but I'd rather pay tax, 25 years from now than doing it now. So start those taxable investment accounts. Now, you've already outgrown your retirement-only investments, so you need to also have some money you can get to. So we also want to have some what I call non-retirement investment accounts and keep it simple. Put those money in low-cost index funds so there's money that you can get to on a regular basis and, talk to your financial planner about those kind of things. But you want to have some accessible money, not just retirement money. And the third thing you need to consider is getting into your real estate investments, not just your primary home, because I think if your primary home is a separate deal, that's kind of more of a lifestyle choice on big, small, or how fancy your primary house is. But I'm talking about assets that produce real income. Real wealth at this level starts to happen from assets, not salary. So whether it is commercial property, single family homes, whatever it is, this is where you really start to win at this game, which leads you right into the next level where we're really going to start to pick this up. And this is the optimization stage. This is where you're making hopefully between $150,000 and $250,000 a year. And this is where some high earners sometimes get really stuck because they're making great money, but somehow they still feel broke. And I've seen it over and over and over where someone making $200,000 a year has no real wealth. And why is that? Lifestyle inflation. They start increasing all the things they need to do. And what happens is every raise turns into a slightly nicer car, a slightly bigger house, a slightly better vacation. And you look rich on paper because you're living the lifestyle, but in reality, you're broke. And here are some strategies when you get to this financial level that have to happen, okay? Again, you have to pay yourself first at this higher level. And to me, 30% of your gross income should be going toward wealth building, not 10, not 20, but 30% or even more. And this may sound aggressive until you realize you're probably paying something similar to that in your taxes. And so this leads us into the second strategy, which is taxes become critical right here. You got to find a way to avoid paying taxes that are unnecessary. So at $200,000 of income a year, poor tax planning can cost you literally $20,000 or $30,000. So you've got to have good planning so you can save as much money on those taxes. And this might include things like maximizing your deductions, your strategic charitable event, giving away, potential running a side business for some other write-offs or having some other rental property. And last piece of this puzzle is this. You have to diversify beyond traditional investments. And this is where alternative assets can make sense. So whether it's real estate syndications, whether it's doing private lending, or possibly doing small allocations to higher risk assets that I'm not personally a huge fan of, but this is the point where people who want to start doing things like crypto, to me, can start doing that. And it's not for the excitement, but it's for the diversification of your asset base so that you can, put a little bit of money in there. Maybe you'll hit a home run. Who knows? And the last phase is this. This is the wealth acceleration stage. This is where people that are making $250,000 or more. And if you've reached this level, you've already won at the income game. So here's something that you need to think of as your reality is this. This is where many people stall, right? They start making $300,000, $400,000, even $500,000 a year. And they're still working and they're not financially free when they're 65 years old. And why is that? Because they never transition from earning to owning. And at this level, 3 things matter hugely. And the first one is you have to start building up equity in assets, not just earning income. So this could mean starting a business or buying into a business or negotiating equity as part of your compensation plan with your job. Ownership is what starts to create real wealth. The second thing you've got to do is build passive income streams. And this goal is simple, right? You've got to find ways to replace your income. First, you hopefully can create enough passive revenues to create 50% of your expenses covered by not going to work and trading your time for money, eventually getting to 75%, even 100%. And then you are completely financially free through your investments and not your labor, trading your time for money. And the third one on this one is now you got to have some advanced tax and estate planning things. At this level, structure matters. I have these things, whether they're trusts, LLCs, corporations. These are not, at this point, strategic planning. These aren't optional anymore. You have to have these things in order to win. So like my businesses are all run through corporations. So you need to have good people that can do that for you, and just reach out to other people that you know that are somewhat wealthy. They'll have great people in your local market. So here's what you need to understand. These are not just income levels. They're completely different games at each level of income, okay? So the strategies that work when you make 50 grand are going to keep you stuck when you're making 150 grand. And the moves that were building up wealth for you when you're making 100 grand can actually start to slow you down when you're making 250 grand. And most people never realize this. As they get further along in the game, they start winning more. People keep playing the same game. And as their income grows, they wonder why they're not getting further ahead than they think they should. And I have personally lived through all 5 of these levels. I have made mistakes at all of these levels. And I've learned what actually works and what doesn't work. And here's the biggest lesson. Your income level, wherever you happen to be right now, is not your identity, okay? It's your current tool set. It's where you just happen to be right now. And if you use the right tools for where you are currently, not where you used to be or not where you want to be, but you look into these where you are right now, wherever you are today, you will know exactly what you need to focus on. And this is not generic advice. These are specific strategies for your specific situation. And that is how wealth is actually built. So if this helped you, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to break down the real strategies like this every single week. And next week, I'm going to show you the 3 investment accounts that matter most at each of these income levels. So what income level are you at right now? Drop some information in the comment. And remember, it's not about making more money. It's about making the right moves with the money you're currently making.